What is going on, everybody? This is Jason. Today I'm joined by Amie Mackenzie. Amie, nice to see you. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good. It's
Nice to
really
meet
cold
you.
here in Ohio. Where are you from?
I am right now in Colorado. It's going to be 1 below 0 tonight.
Okay, it's not that cold here, but
Yeah. But you guys have the moisture, so it feels a little colder, right?
mhm. So where are you from originally?
I was born in Colorado, but I grew up in Wyoming.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, kind of sometimes. Yeah.
What made you want to be an actor?
It's just one of those things. Ever since I was a little kid, I've just been doing it. I just have been finding the opportunities, writing the sketches, putting on the plays, and it's just been a part of my life for so long. And I keep my whole life I keep dipping into some level of it, and then I get pulled back. I raise kids, or one thing after another. And now finally, with my kids grown and gone, I am devoting a lot more time to it, and it's really great. It's really great to be kind of more immersed in it now.
Yeah, you've had a really good 2-year run.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, what's the journey been like? What was it like when you went on your first audition? What was
Well,
that?
it's so funny because I have such a long history in theater. So for years and years and years, it's just theater auditions, and that's a whole different animal. I literally have had the experience where you go to an audition and you stand up and you start singing and you get your 8 bars in and they go next. So I've had that experience. But then I did a bunch of film stuff here in Denver before I branched out into the bigger market. So we have a big industrial film market here. So a lot of corporate videos and commercials and things like that. And those were always in-person auditions, and they felt a lot like theater auditions. But once we got into the land of self-tape auditions, that's a whole different beast. And so I really miss going into the room. Being in Denver, the Denver-based agents started submitting their talent in New Mexico early on. So early on, I remember being put on tape kind of in the middle of the Breaking Bad, series, maybe seasons 2 and 3, 4, maybe we started getting put on tape, and occasionally somebody from Denver would book something. But I finally, Breaking Bad was over, but right around the time Better Call Saul was starting, I just said to my agent, if there's an audition that comes up in New Mexico, get me in the room. I'll drive down there. And so once I started doing that changed everything. And, I started booking down there right away, pretty much. So yeah, it's, some auditions you get more nervous for. And some, I guess it's the same at home too. Though I just worked on an audition recently, and it should, for all the world, have been really easy for me. Like, it should have been, oh, I know this character, I know, but I was super nervous about the project. Not nervous, but like, oh my gosh, this would be huge. So I probably, overdid it. It might have been better for me to just be able to go in the room, do it once, and go home. But yeah, the audition process is crazy now with these self-tapes. You're producing the video, you're editing it, you're picking which take to use. It's pretty nuts.
I want to hear about Better Call Saul, but first I want to ask you about Lift Talk. You wrote Lift Talk and you acted in Lift Talk. What is that experience like? Do you want to write more?
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm also a geek. I'm not one of the 3 geeks, but that film Lift Talk was done by a group of friends here in Denver, and we call ourselves Cinema Geeks. And we've been together for years. We started out doing the 48-hour film festival, and our films did really well. Like, we have really solid people in our group, like, award-winning people that shoot other things, outside of the 48-hour film festival. And then with Lift Talk, we did outside of the 48-hour film festival, we did one called Grill Talk, and it was just a bunch of neighbors talking over the fence while they're having a barbecue. And then somebody saw that, or somebody saw one of our entries into the 48-hour film festival, and New Belgium Beer came and said, hey, we're going to do our own film festival. Will you do a couple, almost like buddy things? And so writing Lift Talk was a collaborative effort. Like somebody else had the idea that this whole movie was going to take place on a ski lift, and all the friends are going to be talking about what's the greatest ski movie ever made. And so we got together, and my writing contributions, I certainly didn't write the whole thing, but we helped develop it all together, and it was really fun. So Cinema Geeks, I love geeks. So yeah, I would love to write more. I actually signed up for Sundance. Has some really great classes. They have all different kinds of workshops, and I signed up for an episodic writing course during COVID because I had an idea for a series that I wanted to put together. And I got about 2 or 3 weeks into the 8-week course, and I figured out I didn't love my idea, and I just started having a million ideas for series. And so I stopped. I didn't finish the course because the whole idea was to produce a pilot, to produce a script for a pilot by the end. And I just couldn't decide on one. So I have great respect for writers because I think it takes a discipline that maybe I don't have at this point in my life to kind of focus on that.
So you went from that to better. So you said, you reached out, you wanted to be on audition for Better Call Saul. What's it like when you booked it?
Oh, it was so fun. That was my very first TV thing outside of Denver. I'd worked on I worked on a feature film in Denver that had Richard Dreyfuss and Chris Cooper and Daryl Hannah and Thora Birch, like a big real movie. So I had done a lot, but I hadn't been in any episodic television. And I had auditioned for Better Call Saul maybe 5 or 6 times before I booked this one. And it was just so fun. My scene was with Mark Margolis, who played Hector Salamanca. Mm-hmm. And then also the cousins, the assassin cousins. They're actually brothers in real life. And they were lovely. And it was just, the whole thing was just magical. It was just so fun and I remember thinking, oh, they're going to find out, I'm just this podunk actor from Denver. And I thought it's all the same. I've been doing this for years and I totally fit in. I felt really good about what I did. And that was a really great first foray into, the bigger world. It was really nice.
What's one of your favorite auditions so far?
Oh, that's a great question. Speaking of first auditions, the very first time I drove down to New Mexico to do an audition in person, oh my gosh, it was for a show called Preacher, and it was a character. It was going to be a recurring character, and she was the mom of someone who had been put in a coma at the fault of someone else. She's tending to this daughter, I think. And then the person that's responsible for putting the child into a coma comes in, drives up. And the very first scene, she's screaming bloody murder, pounding on the windshield. I'm gonna kill you, like just out of control. So I'm all excited. I drive down to New Mexico, and not to give New Mexico a bad name, but I stayed in not the best hotel. And to make a long story short, someone tried to break into my hotel room in the middle of the night. So I was awakened by about 1 a.m. and I had, gone to sleep at 11 and didn't sleep the rest of the night. So when I went into that audition, I was just pure caffeine and nerves, and I let it rip. I let it rip, like the mask came off, and I was just, and the poor, there's usually, the casting director is usually either recording or reading with you. There are usually 2 people in the room. And I got I was frothing at the mouth. I flipped out in this scene. And the casting director just froze. She'd never met me before. And she turned to the person filming and she goes, please tell me you got all that. Please tell me you got that. So then I got called back for that. And that was super exciting. The director for that was a really renowned director, and I had a great callback. I ended up not booking it, but it was a really fun, it was super, super fun audition. And then the other thing that was fun about that one that I remember so vividly was being outside the waiting room, and they were having all different characters go in. I don't remember anyone else there while I was there that was reading for my character. So there, there'd be an older gentleman going in, and then a young woman, and, so all these different characters, and you could hear through the door. And this old guy walked in to audition. This is the callback now. And he had a face like oh my God, just chiseled, really cool looking face. And you could tell that he maybe wasn't a seasoned actor. He was a little nervous and insecure. And he got in there and I could hear his voice very quietly. And then the director, I heard the director working with him, and he was so gracious and so good and so supportive and just saying, that was really great. Hey, now just sit down, just relax. I want you to talk to me just like you're talking to your friend, you know, it just coaxed this incredible performance out of him. And I remember thinking, oh, getting into the bigger pond doesn't mean it's scarier or it's cold or it's cutthroat or any of those things. It was so they're just looking for the best people, and they're looking, and that guy had a look that they loved, and if they could get him to, so they were just really willing to work with everyone, and I thought that was so encouraging, you know, and it kind of dissipated some of my fears about being in a bigger, scarier world, you know, that seemed like it could, you hear a lot of bad stories about it being cutthroat and kind of Hollywood being sort of, you know, difficult and full of, you know, drama, and that wasn't and hasn't been my experience. So that was a pretty neat experience.
So Better Call Saul, Station 19, Elsbeth, all these shows, you know, they've been around for a little bit of time. Even MacGruber, the cast had all like known each other going into that series. What's it like going on set with an established show like that?
Yeah, that's such a smart question. That is such a smart question, because I think it is a really it's a really interesting position to be in. You know, when you do a play, you show up rehearsal. It's very, even if you have a small role, you're there a lot. You have to be there for all the performances, and you really form this community. And then when you're Kristen Wiig and Will Forte and you're doing MacGruber, it's all your friends back. So it's very similar, you know, it's like you could be with all your friends, but then you're bringing in all these day players, or if I'm lucky, I might get a week or two. And so our job is to, and you kind of have to do this subconsciously, is to get a sense of what is the feel of the show. How serious are they? How playful are they? How much do they want everything to be spot on with the script, or how much are they really going to value if you bring your own stuff to it? And that's just all a feel thing. And it's really important. You can't come in with your own agenda. You can't come in and say, oh, but I'm going to stand out, so I make the final cut, and it's not your job. Your job is to come in and be the little puzzle piece that fits into the puzzle they're already making, and just fit in seamlessly, and have them say, oh, thank goodness, you know, we didn't know if we could find that one, and there it is. And so it's nerve-wracking a little bit, because you don't know what you're walking into. But that one was so fun. Will Forte was not in the scene that I was shooting. Kristen Wiig was in the scene, and she was great. We got to watch her improvise, and it was just so delightful. But I ended up standing around talking to Will Forte, and he was so fun. He reminds me of all of my Cinema Geek friends. He was just like a kid having fun and just being creative. We started laughing so hard at one point, and I was wearing this evening gown that I didn't have it. And I'm trying to wipe my nose because I was laughing so hard. And he offered his shirt. So my claim to fame is I got to wipe my nose on Will Forte's shirt because he made me laugh so hard. And he was fine with it.
That is awesome. That dude is so funny. He was on a show called Last Man on Earth, which was one of my favorite shows. I was so mad when it got canceled. But he just seems like a nice guy. And it's nice to hear that he really is that guy.
Yeah. And just imagine, like, he was so happy and so grateful to have this opportunity to make this thing with his favorite people and just get to play, and everybody was having a great time, and everybody was really gracious. So that was one where I thought, oh, it's easy to walk in and just, you know, they were good to us and appreciative of us. And I was like, yeah, can I come back tomorrow? It was really great.
Well, one of my favorite current shows is Elsbeth. Were you a big Good Wife fan, Good Fight fan?
Yes,
at all
yes.
That series?
Yeah, I watched all of The Good Wife. Yep, and loved her in that. I loved her in that. And again, I didn't get to work with her, but I got to meet her, and I chatted with her for just a couple minutes. And she's, you know, again, she's just like having a ball, and, you know, so grateful to have the work and doing such an amazing job with it. But I got to work with Keegan-Michael Key. And so that's who you know, there were three of us in the scene, and then he was the guy that week. And so we had you know, you have some time to hang out, and he was hilarious. He was another one that I was afraid I was going to have to wipe my nose on his shirt, because we got the giggles a few times, and I had a very small role in it, but it's just, magical to be on those sets. We shot in Sleepy Hollow for that one. Have you ever been there? Oh man, I mean, you just feel like Ichabod Crane is going to come, riding out of the woods. And we're at the Sleepy Hollow Country Club or something. So, usually at my level, on the day that I'm shooting, I get what's called a honey wagon. It's just like this little closet as my trailer. And for that one, I got one of the guest suites at the Sleepy Hollow Country Club. So I was taking pictures and it was crazy. It was really great.
So Dexter, I just rewatched your episode because going into Dexter Original Sin, I can't lie, I was very skeptical because anytime they make a prequel, but man, that show is cast brilliantly. Everybody looks. Christian Slater doesn't look, but he's great in the show. But everybody else looks just like the people from the show, especially the sister.
Yeah,
I was shocked, like amazed.
Well, and she, it's really interesting because when I first met her, I was like, I don't think she looks like her at all. I mean, a little bit, a tiny bit in the face. But man, she is such a great actor and her energy is so similar. Her energy is so spot on that I watched a bit of the original Dexter the other day. And because I watched one when I found out I got cast. I watched a couple because I have not seen the whole thing and I wanted to go back and watch it. So I got in my face, and in my head, the original cast. And then I go to LA and I meet the new cast. And when I first met them, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can see it. But after seeing them in the show and after work, as soon as I worked with them, I was like, oh man, they nailed it. They nailed it. I think Molly Brown and Patrick Gibson, is that right? I think they're so good. And then Christian Slater's just having a ball. He was really fun.
Yeah, she brings the same art to the cussing that Jennifer Carpenter brought to death.
Yeah. She's got this fresh face, kind of innocent, awestruck kid stuff. And then she's just, she said something. Is it okay to swear on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
She said, one of my favorite days, or you're having a good time when the cue that you hear on set is, okay, let's take it from Jizzbot. That's the line they cut from, and they're going to take it from there. Like they were both, and she had a little bit of a cold the days that I was there, and she was still just, so fun, and they're having fun. That seemed like the whole crew was having fun. I think I had 3 days on that. And it was just, again.
Your line was, excuse my French. And she's like, no, your French is fine.
Yeah. My line is, and quit fucking smoking. Yeah, it was so fun. It was really great. And she's like, oh. And what a great way to set up, that whole thing with her. It was really fun to.
So how do you get the show Monsters?
What's that?
How do you get the show Monsters?
So that was just an audition process. That was interesting. I auditioned for a different episode of Monsters and booked it. And then about a week later, the role or the scene or something got canceled. So I was all bummed. And then a couple days later, they wrote and said, we really liked her audition. So we're going to let her pre-audition for the next episode. And it was a different director. So they couldn't just, go to the same person. So I had to audition again, but I had a little bit of a, kind of, maybe they felt sorry for me. And so that's how I got that one. And that was a crazy shoot. That was 3 really long days just to get that 5-minute scene. It's about a 15-minute scene interspersed with all the things that Nathan Lane's character is talking about. He refers to all these things from the trial or from his past, and you cut to those through the course of that dinner party that they're having. But for us to shoot, we just kept shooting that dinner party. It was, oh my gosh, it was 15, 17 pages of dialogue for him, big chunks of monologue for him. And we had to do it from every angle, close-ups far away, our lines, his lines. They kept resetting our dinner plates. We each had 8 or 10 dinner plates at various stages of being eaten. And they'd say, okay, let's go from chunk 2. And we're going to do a close-up. And all these people would come out with the candle. There were 4 guys that just set the candles at the right height and everything. And so just watching the production of that and watching Nathan Lane, just, a seasoned theater actor, he just brought it every single time. The camera would literally be like up his nose. Like it's literally like having a dinner plate this far away from your face. And they put a little X like actually on the edge of the lens for him to look at so he can see his own reflection. And he would deliver take after take, a different nuance, a different feel, spot on. He just, it was a great front row seat to watch that.
I mean, yeah, you worked with some amazing people. Do you have anybody that you really want to work with still?
Oh, that's such a great question. I got asked that somewhere else. And I thought I want to have a better answer next time. Really, for me, almost everybody is just so fascinating because I still think I'm so green. You know, I've had a lot of experience now and worked with a lot of great people, and now I'm sort of over that fear of the imposter syndrome. I mean, I still have imposter syndrome sometimes, but I've had enough instances where I fit in and I do okay and I see the finished product and that all worked. But you know, every time I get an audition and it says who the stars are, I just feel like, okay, I'll do it. That sounds amazing. But yeah, there are people that I truly think, I mentioned this before, but you know, the whole ensemble of Succession, all those people, that whole style of writing and acting, I love so much. I feel like I am inherently very naturalistic, very non-presentational. I like it when you have the room to kind of overlap and interject and not say something directly, or you can just communicate with a reaction or so that style would be so fun. I just think there's so many great actors out there right now. And, you know, here at award season, you look through every face and you're like, how could you not pick any single one of those to win? You know, I just watched The Brutalist, Adrian Brody. Oh my gosh. You know, I watched The Substance, Demi Moore, and Margaret Qualley. Both of them were just extraordinary. You know, it's like, I don't know how people pick. I don't know how you can pick a winner in a pool like that.
No, I get it. I haven't seen those two yet, but I watched The Last Showgirl recently with Pamela Anderson, and I was shocked that she wasn't nominated for anything because I thought she was just amazing.
Yeah, I'm making my way through all of them. I've got that one to go. I just watched A True Pain. That was great. Have you seen that with Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg? It's so good. It's so
Kieran
good.
Culkin is so good. He went from the kid on Home Alone that drank too much Pepsi, and now he's just like this badass actor from Succession too.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's got such a great. His style reminds me a lot of Jason Bateman. You know, there's a little bit of like, what is it? It's like so contained in the character and so consumed with everything that's going on with the character that there's just like kind of checking in from time to time with what's going on around you, and yet so impacted by everything that's going on around them. You know, so if you're too in tune with your character and you block everything out, you're not connected. And if you're too connected with everything that's going on outside and you don't have anything going on, that's not interesting. But both of those elements are so heightened with them, you know. It's really fun to watch.
So what's next for you?
So I can't talk about some of the things I just shot or I'm about to shoot, but I'm going to hopefully have another good year. I've already had 2 good bookings this year. I just got back from the first one, got to work on a film. And then I booked a film that amazingly shoots here in Denver. So that'll be great. I do have some things coming out. I can talk about the Madison because they put that up on IMDb. I did not. So Taylor Sheridan's next big thing will be the Madison with Michelle Pfeiffer. And I got to work on that in November. And so we'll see. That will be a fun one. That should be out. I think they wrap up shooting maybe next month. So hopefully by the end of the year, that one will be out.
That's another one with a great cast. Patrick Adams from Suits, J. August Richards.
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be great. And Taylor Sheridan, I don't know how much of his stuff you've seen. He has such a way. He's such a great storyteller, and then he has a way of creating these characters that are so recognizable, so, and I refrain from saying stereotypical, because you take like Kevin Costner as the head of the ranch in Yellowstone or whatever, is really recognizable sort of type, but then giving them all this other interesting stuff to work with that challenges some of those aspects of what would make them otherwise a ordinary character. So I can't wait to see what he does with these people. And I like the idea too of the storyline. I'm not, this is like on IMDb or the way they're promoting it now. I know as much as you do, honestly, other than the little bit more that I know because I shot a scene. But it's a New York based family. So Michelle Pfeiffer's character, and her daughter, and the Patrick J. Adams character. Is that right? Is that his middle initial?
Yeah.
That's a New York based family, but there's a tragedy that happens in Montana that brings them all out there. And so it's going to be the conflict between those kinds of worlds. And I think that's really interesting because I think that's happening in our country now, city versus rural, left versus right. There's so much polarizing in our country right now. It'll be interesting to see how some of that's brought together. But
nice. Where can everybody find you online?
What's that?
So where can everybody find you online?
I'm happy to have people join my Instagram. I'm at Macamie, M-A-C-K. So it's M-A-C-K and then Amy, which is spelled weird, A-M-I-E. You can find me there. My IMDb is always up with the latest stuff. I'll have some new things popping up. I have a bunch of things that are going to drop this year that I shot last year that I can't quite talk about yet, but they'll be out soon and I'm excited about them. So it'll be fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much for taking the time. Everybody go follow us at 3 Geeks Podcast. Go to 3geekspodcast.com. We'll talk to you soon.
Yay, geeks.